Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Good morning, Bryan College Station. Happy New Year. Welcome into the 2025 edition of TexAgs Live, and you're starting your year off with a B-team version for 2 days in a row. It's all going to go downhill from here. You set the bar really high so that when David comes back, he's going to have 363 days of trying to reach the bar that myself, Ryan Brauninger, and my cohort, Olin Buchanan, are about to set for the best hour of radio that you'll hear all year. Good morning, OB.
Good
Happy
morning.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a Happy New Year, right? We've had enough years where, yeah, they've been. What's the next level, or what's the level just below happy?
Content.
We've had no, I don't think we've been content. What kind of year do we have?
Well, if you want to go back and rehash 2024, that's a very good segue into some things that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Maybe some superlatives for Aggie football. I don't think you and David have.
It wasn't a melancholy New Year.
No,
it
wasn't.
Than that.
Did you do anything fun?
Did I do anything fun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did some fun things.
For New Year's, you weirdo.
Oh, for New Year's. Well, you didn't.
You creep?
I thought we were talking about the whole year. You said 220. That's what he said, right, Callie? He said 2024.
Don't drag her into this. I'm over her.
You're what?
I'm over her, you and your blonde friend this morning. Okay, I'm not starting my new year with all that.
All that.
You know, yeah. I'm old. I watch TV. And we stayed up till midnight, and then about 3 o'clock, I got a call to go pick up my son, who had maybe a little bit too much revelry. And we had told him, hey, if you ever get in that point, call, and we won't be mad at you as long as you call. And fortunately, he was only about 5 minutes away where he was, having a part where he's attending a party. So, Dad, like probably every dad, that has kids of that age, hearing us right now, probably like every one of them have done, Dad dragged his tired ass out of bed, got in the truck, drove over and said,
it's good, Dad. That's good kid for not trying to drive home.
Yeah.
He heeded warnings and made a smart decision, and that's all you wanted, right? Make a smart decision, give me a call. Well, good. I'm glad.
Speaking of smart decisions, maybe some smarter decisions will make this a happy New Year. And I'm talking about A&M football and basketball and baseball. Smart decisions could make this and I wonder about some of the decisions that have been made recently by players and such.
Well, we're going to get into that.
I know we are.
In just a second. It's a great segue. Olin, you're running the show this morning. We don't even need Nuno. I don't even know where you're at, but maybe you don't even come back at all because Olin can steer this ship.
I can steer it like that. Like that guy that knocked down the Baltimore Bridge.
Saying good morning to Nick Savage pulling the strings in the fishbowl. Nick, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are y'all?
We're good. Olin's off to a hot start this morning.
He told me he needed a monster, but it doesn't seem like it so far.
He just needed a little caffeine hit, I think.
I did. And plus,
once the lights go on.
When it's time to do the job, you got to do the job.
That's right. That's right. You never know he's playing hurt.
That's a good point.
Nick, any fun? Did you do anything fun for New Year's Eve? We missed you. I thought you were coming with us to the tap.
No, I went back to Sugar Land and just hung out there, but nothing too crazy. I didn't even stay up till me and my wife didn't stay up till midnight. So
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Nick's an old soul.
Yeah, he looks like somebody that rise with the rooster. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The rooster crows.
I don't know what that means.
Really?
Oh, did you say rise with the rooster?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I know what that means. I thought you said rides with the rooster. What does that mean?
Whoa. All right, Nick. Happy New Year.
Please explain more, OB.
Sounds like you should be.
Don't. You're asking for us to get kicked off the air.
You should be
in our first
doing
hour.
this job for somebody in South Carolina.
Okay. I didn't know you were going to. All right. Good, Olin. Callie Garner, as mentioned in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I don't think my mic can catch her.
Has probably never risen with the rooster.
Maybe, but I don't think you did over the weekend or for the holiday.
I'm still not sure what that means. Like,
all right, when the rooster crows at the morning at dawn, at daybreak, some people like farmers, they get up with the rooster.
So, like you're saying, I probably never get up early
at daybreak.
She does. I bet she does. There's a couple of other ones that she runs around with in this company that I probably don't.
Nagley's never seen the sunrise.
Well, Nagley's back there.
Yeah, she's never seen the sunrise.
Well,
I bet she has. She gone fishing with her dad or her brother.
Maybe.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Okay, we're not going to get any insight into Callie's New Year's. That's probably
we had a lot of fun. Tex Gals went to Houston and did.
I saw.
Yeah.
We all saw pictures.
I didn't see them.
Oh, good. You're probably better off for it. I had a great time. We went to the Tap, watched Roger Krager does a piano bar there.
Oh, yeah?
Every year. My wife and I made it to midnight, and at 12:05, our Uber was there to pick us up, and we were headed home. So it was perfect. And then last night, watched the games, got in bed, and was asleep by 9:30. So it was a wonderful start to New Year. And I have New Year's resolutions. Do you?
Oh, yeah, I do.
What, you mind sharing with the class?
Yeah, like everybody, this year I want to get healthier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more important to have that approach the older you get, right?
Sure.
And then I think I need to take more time off. Like we get a certain amount of vacation. I took 1 week.
I know. I don't ever see you taking vacation. Yeah.
So I need to take it.
I like that. Man.
I need to have.
It's part of the health, though, too, right?
Yeah.
But you like your job.
I do. So have more fun.
You need to have more fun.
I need to have more fun.
Nick, you got any New Year's resolutions?
Get back on the workout grind.
Oh, the Shred Shack is back.
The discipline needs to come back. I need to listen to Jocko.
Oh, not David-O, not Nuno?
I knew who Jocko was way before David. I promise you that.
Callie?
Mine's the same. It's really boring, but get back. Like, I wanted to go to the gym every day.
Okay. I like this. Everybody's trying to get healthy. I need to shed some weight. That's on my list. And you know what I want to do? I want to make sure that the people that I work with, that I appreciate, that they know that I appreciate them more.
Oh, that's good. That's very commendable.
So I think that we go through, like, working here is kind of part of what it is like we all take jabs at each other. And I was poking fun at Callie and Kay this morning, but they do great work for us. So I want to make sure that while we do poke fun and play, that, you know, when you write a really good article, I want to tell you, Olin, that's outstanding. I really appreciate what you do for our company.
Well, that's a great resolution. Everybody should have that one.
Well, it's got to be a give and take. It can't always be poking, because I think that kind of wears on people. So you make sure they know that you're picking at them because you love them, right? That kind of thing.
Well, I always say, don't work at TexAgs if you got a thin skin. If you get your feelings hurt, don't work.
That's so true.
And another thing, I'm going to make a New Year's resolution on that when I host this radio show, that the temperature in here, I'm sweating already. I don't know how David does it. And I thought I turned it down, but I can never tell if I'm controlling that or Josh Olsey, our temperature overlord, is controlling it. But I'm hot in here. Is it not like dank? You ever seen the movie Backdraft?
I have.
Where they just open
the fireman.
they open it. And, that's kind of what I feel like. Oh. Remember Alex Parker used to work here? Walked in her house one time.
How could I not?
Yeah, Alex Parker's house. I opened the door and it felt like the movie Backdraft.
Huh.
I can say that because I know she ain't listening. She don't listen to this program anymore. She didn't listen to it whenever she worked here.
Maybe that's a perfect climate for growing things.
Well, maybe A&M is cultivating the perfect climate for a happy 2025.
God, let's hope so.
So Where do you want to start, OB, as we start getting into the actual gist of this discussion? We'd usually be in the holistic planning cool zone.
Well, the cool zone.
The cool zone, maybe the temperature would go over.
That's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and maybe the temperature, that's where the AC blows, so we should move the desk over there.
Over there to the cool zone.
But it is, for years, professional sports investing was reserved for the ultra-wealthy, not anymore. If you are interested in learning more about professional sports investing and to determine if it may be appropriate for you, Holistic Planning is your ticket. Go to investinprosports.com today. Don't forget, we are in the Rollo Insurance Studios, and we are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. You want to interact with the show? We're going to have Logan Lee on. Don't know if he's coming in or he's going to be on the Boss Firearms Hotline, 979-693-1150 to call or text in. Put Callie to work over there in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. OB, you want to start with the playoff games yesterday?
Yeah, why not?
I think that's top of mind for most people that are kind of getting in their cars and getting back to work after the holiday. Really,
what is targeting?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. There are certain programs, and I know what A&M fans will say, they feel the inverse of this, but there are certain programs where the bread tends to fall jelly side up, and then there are certain programs where the bread tends to fall jelly side down, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
And from my perspective, the bread often falls jelly side up for the folks in Austin.
Yeah, that look, first of all, Arizona State had a chance to win the game and didn't take advantage of it later.
Mm-hmm.
But I know everybody saw the game, but if you didn't, Arizona State late in the game, about 2 minutes to go, is dry. Well, they're trying to drive, right? And
they had one
Texas
first down,
had just missed the field goal. They picked up the first down. It looks like they're facing 3rd and 10 maybe, and it looks like they did. They completed a pass at about the 40, so it's going to be 4th and 5. But their safety came up, the walk-on guy, and he hits the Arizona State receiver, and I've watched it over and over, and he hit it with this. It was helmet to helmet, and he was a quote defenseless receiver.
Yeah.
And they stopped the game and say, okay, this got to look for this targeting, and even the referee that's always part of the broadcast, because the broadcast.
Was it Matt Austin or Terry McCauley? One of them, yeah.
I don't think it was McCauley, because McCauley came in on Twitter later, a guy that's been a official forever, and said, yeah, this is classic textbook targeting. And then the guy on the broadcast, oh yeah, this is targeting. And then somehow it wasn't. I heard people say, well, he didn't launch. I don't think launching is required if it's a head-to-head.
And on the defenseless receiver.
Yeah. So, of course, they didn't call it. If they call it, Arizona State has first down at the midfield. And who knows, their kicking game is shaky, but at least they have this opportunity. I think everybody just wishes that college football was called evenly.
I have a problem with the targeting rule. I don't like the rule, but it is a rule, and as such, it should be regulated as it is written.
You know what's one of the dumbest things I saw was on Twitter or X, whatever they call it, Doug Gottlieb. You remember him? He used to have his radio show, and now he's a basketball coach at Green Bay.
And they're terrible, and they lost to a D2 school.
Yeah, after he disrespected them. Yeah. So Doug Gottlieb tweets out, it was definitely targeting, but you should never make a call at that time.
Oh, there were a lot of people that had that.
That is stupid.
That is a stupid. If it's a foul in minute 1, it's a foul in the final minute of the game.
So, but through all that, Arizona State still had a chance to win the game.
Well, Texas did too. Don't forget, Texas peed down their leg a couple of times too.
Missed field goals that were very makeable. But I'm talking about at Arizona State, they have a 7-point lead in overtime, and it's
4th and 13.
4th and 13, and they try to blitz everybody. Don't get any pressure, as you were pointing out earlier. But they got a safety who's like watching it as I can't remember, was it Golden they called it for Texas?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Just runs right by him, and Ewers makes a nice throw because he's good. Let's face it. And
that's going to be an interesting topic of discussion once their season's over, because I don't know if you saw the report from On3 about Quinn being offered up to $6 million in the transfer to go in the transfer portal as opposed to going to the NFL draft. And he's got another year of eligibility if he wants to take it. What does Texas do with him? Because of what's behind him in Arch Manning.
Do we know what's behind him? We know who's behind him.
I'm saying if I'm Texas and I have the opportunity to keep Quinn for another year, I'll probably do it. Because the devil you know is a lot safer than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
And they should be pretty good again next year. They're going to have to replace a lot on their offensive line, but they've got really good skill players.
Yeah.
Those backs can come back. I think Texas has got a chance to make another run, but put it all on Arch Manning, who's an unknown, could be really good, obviously a talented kid. But I think the offseason discussion with Quinn Ewers is going to be interesting. I don't think he's going to leave Texas to go play somewhere else. I think if he leaves Texas, he's going to go play to the NFL.
If you were in his shoes and you're definitely going to leave Texas, would you go into the NFL draft, or would you take $6 million from another company?
Well, it depends on what my draft grade is, right? I mean, where am I going to get drafted?
Okay, no worse than the second round.
Second round pick, I'd probably want to go start getting my professional career started.
Okay.
But I do, and who knows, like these numbers that are being thrown around that this is what somebody's offering. I know because I've worked in this realm now for 2 years or 2.5 years with this transfer portal and what it is now. I know how fishy some of these numbers are.
Well, if I say
these NIL evaluations.
Okay, you want me to I don't know who the programs are that want him.
Well, think about who's going to need a quarterback.
What?
Oregon.
Okay, if I say
Ohio State.
Okay, give me $6 million up front, so that way they can't be. If you want me to come $6 million up front, and I'll play another season for you. Would you?
And I don't know Quinn at all. Like I don't know is he loyal to the Texas program?
He may be, but I know he left his high school team early for the money.
For the money, yeah.
Look, I think we can also. I think you know me. You can say I live a reasonably comfortable lifestyle.
Well, you've got a 12,000 square foot home, right?
Well, I don't, but a reasonably comfortable.
No, I'm kidding.
You know what? I've not made $6 million my whole life.
But I understand how much money it is, but he's also looking at a lot of money professionally, and some guys just want to get their professional career started.
I get it. I'm just saying, not everybody has that option.
If that number is legit, by the way, too, we're making a big assumption that somebody is going to be willing to pay him.
Because like
Notre Dame's going to be in the quarterback market.
Yeah, they are.
But it goes back to, and I know we're up against the break, Nick. It goes back to this theory, and it's just a theory right now because there's not enough data, much like the playoff games and people, raising all kind of cane about the disparity in the point differentials in these playoff games. There's just not enough data to be definitive about some things. And one of the theories that I'm looking at right now is if you go pay top dollar in NIL for a transfer portal quarterback, you better be prepared to keep doing that for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's going to hurt that quarterback room and the development of the guys underneath your starter. And you better get it right.
I wonder how much we got to pay Marcel.
Well, but he's not a transfer.
I know he's not, but
I'm saying
keep
is
him from transfer too.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, like if DJ Lagway would have gone into the transfer portal, now it might be worth going to get DJ Lagway, or what Oregon did with Dylan Gabriel, or Notre Dame did with Riley Leonard, Miami did with Cam Ward. Miami's probably got to go get a quarterback, right? And I don't know if they got on campus. I know Notre Dame's is looking for a quarterback. So I don't know, like. And then these playoff teams.
Who's the best quarterback in the ACC that's going to be available? Because that's what Notre Dame does. The ACC is their
Or is it Quinn Ewers?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot still to happen. And I know for A&M at least, classes start. The last day to add drop, if I'm not, I think it's January 13th. So A&M has got to get their stuff done within 11 days. So there's still a lot to be done, and we'll talk more transfer portal with the Aggies with an announcement yesterday that Noah Thomas has entered his name into the transfer portal. So we need to get to that. We can talk briefly about the blowout in Pasadena last night, Rose Bowl. Ohio State doubles up Oregon, and it really wasn't even that close. So a lot more to get to this morning. We've got Logan Lee coming to talk basketball. We got Aaron Torres, and we're going to have an hour and a half of Billy Liucci to close the program here on a Thursday on TexAgs Live. We'll be right back. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, running toward the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour on a Thursday morning. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. I'm Ryan Brauninger. He's Olin Buchanan. It's the Go Hour. It's presented by Maroon U. And this is Coffee Talk, presented by TexAgs Coffee. I asked if you needed a coffee, and you're not a coffee guy.
No, my wife is. She says that coffee that comes from El Salvador, I think Guayal Palomo, good ag, that is involved in that. She says it's always really good. So
we have a quick segment here. I want to kind of finish our discussion on the Peach Bowl yesterday. Texas 39, Arizona State 31 in double overtime, and it was close. I mean, Cam Scatterbo, legendary performance.
Great performance.
It was close to being an all-time college football performance if Arizona State would have won the game.
Well, they made him the MVP, offensive MVP, even though they lost. So what does that tell you? Man,
I thought that should have gone to Matthew Golden.
He was pretty dominant too, but I don't see how you came away from that game thinking, man, Scatterbo.
It's crazy to look around college football sometimes at kids that are from the state of Texas that under-recruited out of high school, and then they get their moments on the big stage, and they're incredible. And I'm not just talking about Matthew Golden, who's from Klein Cain, and nobody really offered him. He goes to U of H and has a couple of really good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I went back.
He's their best receiver.
He might be their best player. And Colin Simmons may be their second best player. Their defense is really good.
Yeah,
they got good players on defense. But, Cam Ward's another one where you just – how do these kids go so under recruited? And it's something that I'm kind of looking at, having discussions with Jason. Is like, what? Ashton Genty, another one.
Yeah,
Heisman finalist from Dallas, and goes kind of under recruited and goes to Boise State and is the best back in the country. So it's always something interesting to look at the fans. To a certain extent, I think certain coaching staffs get wrapped up in stars.
Yeah,
and we were talking before the show began about, Noah Thomas goes into the transfer portal, and that's another guy to that 2022 class. How many of them are going to finish a career at Texas A&M? There's been one, Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, that's.
I'd have to go back and look through all of it, but man, it was one of the wildest, most fun few months of my career as an analyst was covering that class, and it just goes to show that you can say about some of this stuff, and you can be and you don't.
Well, Noah's a good player, and maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe there'll be some NIL money come his way, and maybe he'll change his mind and stay. I hope he does. But that said, A&M's made so much, I think, improvement or potential improvement through the transfer portal that if he does leave, I think they're going to still be in pretty good shape at receiver. But don't get me wrong. Noah was your best guy here and this year, and hopefully
no question.
I wonder if Callie Garner.
It's on the table for him to come back.
Well, I hope he does. I wonder if Callie Garner, in a different situation, if she would have ever dated Cam Scatterbo for just the possibility to be married and be the Callie Scatterbo.
I don't know. He even put her right on the spot with that.
Callie Scatterbo? Did you see the game? Did you see the game?
I did watch the game.
What do you think of Scatterbo?
I think he's a really, really, really good football player.
He's a walking adult beverage.
I saw that. That's a good.
That's exactly what he is. He's
which adult?
Like beverage? A Bud Heavy.
A Bud Heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you drink, Callie? No, I really like that guy, Scatterbo. I like the name too.
Well, and he plays like I was talking about it yesterday, and I tweeted about it. It's like he was living out Billy Bob in Varsity Blues, his entire plot line in a movie that you were the co-star in.
I was in.
Your co-star, not the star, but you were a co-star in Varsity Blues. And by the way, if you don't think Jonathan Moxon and our next guest remind you like that, there's definitely some kindred spirits there.
Kind of like when
Stephen McGee,
Reggie McNeil couldn't play because of injury, and all of a sudden you had to go to
Jonathan Moxon, a.k.a. Stephen McGee.
You know what? I might want to have another son, and if I do, I think I might name him Scatterbo.
Scatterbo, McGee.
Buchanan.
Yeah, Scatterbo, McGee, Buchanan.
I like the name Callie Scatterbo, though. I think.
Okay, all right, we're going to commercial. When we come back, Stephen McGee, Jonathan Moxon joins the show. I'm sure it'll be as tame as the first 30 minutes have been. We're coming back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. Olin Buchanan remains with us, and we welcome in our quarterback and our financial advisor. Well, not my financial advisor and not your financial advisor. So.
He told me don't take any wooden nickels. That's what's the financial advice he gave me.
I don't know if you heard at the end of the last segment, Stephen McGee, we compared you to Jonathan Moxon.
Oh, well, because, Lance Harbor got hurt. Jonathan Moxon stepped in. Reggie McNeil got hurt. Steve McGee stepped in.
I love it.
That's
a compliment to me.
Did you ever get in an argument with Rodney and say, I don't want your life?
I did. He made me run the quarter mile in track. And he's like, I used to run the quarter mile. It'll put hair on your chest. Real men run the quarter mile. And I was like, Dad, I'm going, I don't need to run the quarter mile. I'm out here to get faster. I really just want to get at most 100 yards. I mean, that's as far as run you can get in football, right? 100 yards?
That's far.
But why am I running further than that? He's like, it teaches you how to compete. And real men run this. You're going to run it. You're going to do it with pride. And I ran it. I didn't run it with pride. And I got home that night, and we got into it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And my stepmom had to break us up. It was bad.
Wow.
I don't want your life.
It is Jonathan Moxon.
I don't want to run the quarter mile.
I don't want to run your race.
Well,
I'm not man enough. I'll admit it. I don't want to be man enough.
You know who was a quarter miler in high school was Noah Thomas. So there's your segue.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So your thoughts on A&M's leading receiver announcing that he's headed into the transfer portal?
Not surprised at all. You guys have known. We've talked about this all year long. The biggest deficiency on offense, in my opinion, was that wide receiver group. And look, in fairness to Noah, he had some great moments, right? I mean, this is not a guy that can't play. I think, though, this could be a win for Noah because he could move out, and it could be, he could sit here and say, hey, look, it was the system not getting us open. It was quarterback issues at times, not giving us enough opportunities. And so that could be true. He can move on and find a system where he fits better. But at the end of the day, if he comes back, I think we've seen enough Noah in the system to know that, there's not enough separation. He can go up and make some great plays. But I think what this offense really needs on the outside right now is some speed threats. And he's a good football player, but I just don't think that, don't
you think his role gets enhanced and his production gets enhanced because of the talent that they've now brought in around him?
It does. I mean, that and getting Le'Veon Moss back, right? That all those things are gonna help you. And I think that he would definitely. I believe if he comes back, that he'd be a starting wide receiver. I mean, I know we bring in a lot of guys, but just remember, most of the time, these guys don't end up working out. I mean, it just is what it is. Now, transfer portal guys, more production, more experience, but I think there's a role here for him, and who knows what's going to happen. But I understand the optics of it are tough for a guy that's in that wide receiver room, and you go out and you make it clearly your day one goal is to do what? Find wide receivers.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that Noah Thomas, again, I hope he decides to stay. I think he is a starter, but I don't think he's a number one receiver. Yeah. And I think that he's a guy that often drew coverage from your opponent's best guys, right? So I do think that kind of getting to Ryan's point, with the guys they're bringing in, some guys who can stretch the field, and all of a sudden I think Noah is looking at maybe the guy's opponent's second or third coverage in man, and I think he could have a big year next year, probably even exceed his totals this year. But I understand also if somebody else wants to pay you a certain amount of money to go play, and you can be the quote one there.
Yeah, that's the dynamic we don't necessarily know publicly is the dollars and cents that goes into these contract deals, and I get that. I mean, he's got to do what's best for him. I will say the argument against that is to say, hey, these guys had as good of looks defensively as you can get in the country. I mean, everyone played us for the most part, but I would say vast majority of our snaps this year were against single high defense. We did not get much too high defense. I mean, they had, if you're a wide receiver and what do you want to see out there? You want to see single high defense, you want to see cover three, and you want to see man looks. those are the opportunities for a wide receiver to shine. They got a lot of that this
So
year.
why did they only see that defense?
Because we're going to run the football. The defenses want to take away the run game. Right? And so...
And also because I don't think they feared the receivers.
Exactly. Well, of course they did. Yeah, exactly. They're saying, hey,
there's a combination of they don't fear the passing game in general. We don't think these guys can get open, and then we don't know that A&M can consistently get them the football. Now, which is a transition.
You line up on first down and second down and long, and a defense lines up in single high man.
Right.
That is
throw the football.
Well, yeah, but that is a insult if you're a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So,
that is a direct.
And that's why I'm saying that I think Noah, if he stayed here, could even be more productive than he was this year. He had 8 touchdowns, about 500 yards receiving. Could be more productive because, with other guys bringing attention away from him.
And I think a lot of people will point to the Texas game as the biggest offensive shortcomings for Marcel, the passing game, the whole thing, right? What we've learned about Texas is that they're really good on defense. I actually am a little bit more bullish on Marcel than I thought I was going to be heading into the offseason because of the games, some of the throws we saw him make against Auburn. And you imagine what that stat line looks like if A&M catches a couple of footballs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what does the stat line look like against USC in the bowl game if Noah catches the slant route? You know what I'm saying? Like
he's touchdown.
And that's a
touchdown. Right on the mask. Yeah, that's a tough one, right? I mean,
you got to catch that.
That's a game changer. And the missed field goal. There's a lot of things.
The missed field goal probably wouldn't have mattered.
Well, yeah, if you
still would have lost by 1 point then.
Yeah, but I would say
there was 41 points out there easily.
Yeah.
So like the offensive production, I thought under Marcel, the Texas game notwithstanding, it kept getting better to the point at the end of the year. I'm going, okay, like there's something there. And you look at some of the numbers, the QBR and some of the proficiency numbers, it kept getting better for Marcel. So when you add this dynamic receiving core that is talented but young, that's why I want Noah back because he's experienced in the offense.
Yeah.
And he's got proven production in this league.
He's good. He's good. He's not elite, but he's good. And maybe with some help around him, he starts approaching elite status.
Would you argue, though, and here's what I've said a long time, and I'm curious y'all's thoughts on this, is in this conference, you've got to have an elite wide receiver. I mean, you look at the teams that are making runs, they all have elite wide receivers. And it's true
if
for the
you
last
go
decade.
back 10 years, the teams that win championships typically have elite receivers. I'm talking about LSU when they won it, Alabama in 2020, Ohio State this year.
Oh, unbelievable.
Jeremiah Smith looks like.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Calvin Johnson.
It's ridiculous.
Like
those Clemson teams.
That kid is
got to have big time receivers.
And then of course the kid now at Alabama, and I know that they're not great. And I'm sitting here asking him how this kid is.
He's only 17. I don't know if you know that.
He's 18 now, but there's a lot.
It's been repeated so many times.
Now, but if you want to start talking about guys going in the portal, there's a lot of discussions about Ryan Williams and how unhappy he is with Jalen Milroe as the quarterback. And what does Jalen?
That dude is not a first-round draft pick at quarterback.
No.
But at one point in the year, he was playing like it. That Georgia game, he's ripping throw after throw after throw, and you're going, this kid is completely.
I'm telling you this. I will take this to my grave. Jalen Milroe is not an NFL quarterback.
No, but
I will put. If anybody wants to take that bet, I will take it right now.
I don't think he is.
He looks like it when he plays A&M.
He does.
That game?
He does. He looked good.
He looked
He was
great.
throwing some dimes.
He
That's
was
what I'm saying. Like, I
Remember
think
that deep two?
Of course I do.
I was thinking, like, who is this guy? Yeah, he has his moments, but you can't. That playing the NFL is not about moments; it's about consistency.
Well, that's
I think what gets you. You got to be able to. The staying power in the NFL is the guy that can do it every damn day. That is the key to football. And let's go back to our quarterback for a second. That's what matters for us. Receivers, everyone has an elite receiver, but let's be honest. You're not going to win or even come close to a championship without elite quarterback play, especially at Texas A&M. Like, we have to have an elite quarterback. And Marcel has to take a huge leap this year.
I was encouraged. I'm telling you, I feel better about it now.
Encouraged is one thing, but remember, it's not. It is about the consistency of the play, and that is the one word that is going to just. It is a mark against him right now. He has got to take a huge leap in his ability to take what the defense gives him. That, like, if you want to simplify it, like, hey, like, don't force things. Like, look against Texas. Like, we have the chance, this offense against USC. That is a bad football team. We lost to a bad football team against USC. Like, we have the ability, even if you're bad on the back end of your defense, to take them out of the game early. right? We allow them to get back into terms. Texas game. Like, Texas is a better football team. But early in that football game, we had the chance to put it on their throat. Like, we don't capitalize. We throw a bad interception. And that comes down to consistency of decisions at the quarterback position. You've got to put your team in a position to succeed. And there's too many times when there's open guys for touchdowns in that football game where he misses them. And it's simple progressions. So for him, does he have a high ceiling? You betcha he does, right? He did some incredible things. He is a good quarterback. But if he does what he did this year throughout his career, he doesn't take a huge leap, we are not going to have the guy that we need at the quarterback position to win a championship.
Well, that's part of the job of these coaches is to get him there.
I totally agree with you. And it's the job of these wide receivers to get open and help these young quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
That didn't plague just Marcel. It plagued Connor. And it's a guy that needs to throw the football to win. I mean, look at when he was out there, it was like magnets on these guys. There was no one open. So I get it. It's not all on these young quarterbacks. But what I was most frustrated with watching Marcel play is that he did not look like he progressed as a quarterback in his ability to read a defense. Hey, just trust the read. It's post, drag, come back, swing. Post, drag, come back, swing. Every time, go through your read. It is that. Don't hang on a post and try to force that post to happen when it's not there. That's what quarterbacks do. They aggressively take what the defense gives them. And I think that was my frustration with Marcel is I felt like he was guessing and trying to say, hey, this is where I want to throw the football as opposed to what the defense gave me.
I'm sorry, I kind of zoned out. I didn't know what I thought you were talking maybe about Jim Schlossnagle's social life. Or your
All right, we're going to commercial break. When we come back, more McGee, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. Real quick segment here before we let Stephen McGee go at the end of the hour. Logan Lee going to join us 9 o'clock. Texas A&M basketball hosts Texas on Saturday at Reed Arena. McGee, very impassioned discussion, kind of an abrupt ending to the last segment. I'm not even checking my phone.
You need to check your phone, dude.
No,
That's what
whatever
your
you sent me,
forecast looks like.
Okay, I'll look at it as soon as
you see in that maze is going to be what.
Yeah, I already knew. Again,
that's what you're going to get in 25.
I don't want them.
Much like I could see Olin's wheels turn into in the last segment. In the commercial break, when you said, "Hey, have you seen your 2025 outlook?" and the look you had on your face, I knew whatever it was going to be, that I'm not looking at that phone until
you knew it was going to be gold. Yeah, I know you can't wait to open up your phone.
I am looking forward to it.
This is like being in the 7th grade when we're off.
It's fun. 7th grade was a great year,
yeah,
dude.
it was.
If you could pick one age to stay that for the rest of your life, what would it be? This has been a question I saw on social media. It's interesting.
That's a good one. That's a great question.
I would say like 30. You still feel good. 28 to 30. You're making money and you feel good. You know enough.
Well, I peaked out athletically in the 6th grade. So
he's going back to 6.
He's 12 years old.
He was the king on campus.
I was.
I respect that.
So
man.
you'd stay 12 years old.
No, I was. Actually, I was pretty good in my 40s.
I'll tell you what, man. Like 11, 12 years old is a great age. I remember. I got to play hooky from school and go hunting all the time at my granddad's place, and I'd camp out down there. Man, I was living the dream.
A lot of people would say like 20 to 22, and I'm like, I was such an idiot. Like I made so many bad decisions. I wouldn't. Now I felt great, and you're in good shape and all that kind of stuff, but like I was such an idiot, and I had no money.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to be that age for the rest of my life.
So I think that college years are the first years where you start to have like some anxiousness and like worries, like, hey, what am I going to do? And all that. Like, but when you're younger, you're like, dude, you're just living life, man. You're not worried about tomorrow. You just kind of enjoy the moment, right?
16 was sweet.
I was, hence the expression.
Strawberry wine?
Yeah. 17.
Man.
That was 17.
Yeah. Dang. I guess close. Yeah.
Soft July moon.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask another question?
Sure, we got about 2 minutes left.
If someone drives a car through a street and then shoots up a bunch of people and then has a terrorist flag on the back, is that not an act of terrorism?
Only it is to everybody except the FBI director or whoever was in charge.
Well, explain that to me, will you? Can you make that make sense to me? Huh?
No, I can't. I cannot make that make sense.
Could it be any more black and white? Can we say at least, hey, we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty confident today that this was an act of terrorism against our citizens, that innocent people died, and that someone flew an ISIS flag in the United States of America on our streets and killed our people, and we're going to investigate this as an act of terrorism until we're for sure it's not? Is that okay? Is that fair?
I can't explain this to you, Steve. I've already.
Because we're more worried about the optics.
I don't care about optics anymore. I care about our people.
I'm with you.
I care about the USA. I care about our borders. This is ridiculous. We have kickoff today at 3 o'clock. That's what made me think about it. And I'm just mad. Don't get me going right now.
I'm not. I didn't.
I did.
You got
did. I did. I got stirred up.
You're the one
I got
that
stirred up
did
thinking
this.
about football today at 3 o'clock.
Well, it's Olin's fault for making you like.
I'm taking Georgia
relive
today.
the 400 meter.
I think the dogs are finna eat. Are the dogs finna eat today? I don't think that Notre Dame's good enough at quarterback position to win it.
All right, we got to go. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, enjoy seeing you, bud.
Yeah, enjoy seeing you. Run that quarter mile.
Hey, read your forecast.
All right, when we come back, Logan Lee, we're going to transition Aggie basketball on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, 9 o'clock hour on a Thursday morning. Thank you guys for joining us. We wish you a safe and happy, wonderful New Year. We go out to the Boss Firearms Hotline to talk to great friend of the program, former TexAgs employee, and I guess former friend of mine because he doesn't text me anymore, Logan Lee. Good morning, Logan. Happy New Year, dude.
Happy New Year, Bronny. I would send you a couple texts, but you act like Liucci these days, and I think y'all deleted my number.
No. Only time I see you or talk to you is when you walk through that front door. But hey, it's okay. We're not gonna. It's 2025. We're not airing our grievances today. Okay. I'm just thankful to be on the air after McGee and Olin. It was like seventh grade. What would you say? Like seventh grade study hall in here. And we're still on the air, I think. So I'm grateful and I'm happy for that.
More like seventh grade detention. Neither of those two ever went to study hall, but I sure as heck can guarantee you they were in detention a couple times.
All right, big one for the Aggies on Saturday at Reed Arena. The Longhorns come in, and McGee, I think with all of these renewings of the rivalry, it's going to be a similar discussion about, the emotion of playing in the game and all that kind of stuff. But there's actual basketball that has to be played. Like, it can't all be about bringing the rivalry back. So let's start with this, okay? Let's start with you. It's your take of seeing the Longhorns on the other side of the floor from the Aggies in the league for the first time. Just maybe some reminiscing of what that meant to you when you played here. And then we got to talk the actual game.
Yeah, man. I mean, the rivalry is great. I'm glad it's back. I'm glad that A&M is facing off against Texas in every sport. It's good for the fans. It's good for the players and the coaches. As much as anybody wants to say, it's just another game, or it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything more than any other game. It does, and the reason it does is because the fans put a lot of pressure on this game to win this game, and the players and the coaches can feel that. They know what it means to the university, and they don't want to let the university down. At the end of the day, they understand, even with NIL and even with the transfer portal and not a lot of players having a ton of loyalty. If you look at this team has been loyal to this program and to Buzz Williams, and they care what's on the front of their jersey. And that's why this game means a little more.
11-2 are the Longhorns as they come into Reed Arena, like I said, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. When you look at this Texas team, Logan, I've been able to watch them play a couple of times, watch them beat NC State in Raleigh. I really like this Trey Johnson kid. But when you look at their body of work so far, the schedule that they've played is nowhere near what the Aggies have run up against.
No, not at all. And no one in the country has played the schedule that A&M has played, and that's good for the Aggies and for what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. Texas has, man, when they've played, if you look at the last 4 games or so, they've beat every team by 20 or 30, and they're running guys off the floor. However, if you look at the UConn game, UConn was a top 25 program at the time, and they kind of dismantled the Longhorns. They spread the floor. They used the pick and roll. They played as a team. The Huskies played as a team and got up by 22 in the first half, I believe, early in the first half. And if you want to take a game, just one game film and watch what happened and how they were successful, it's because they spread the floor. They worked as a team, and really they took open shots all game long. Texas's defense was not very good after having to play 15 seconds of defense in each possession. They broke down. As the ball was moving from side to side, they lost track of where they were and their rotations. On the flip side, Texas wasn't able to score because I thought they went one-on-one against UConn, and they just didn't have have the success because UConn's defense was very good. Now, I don't think UConn's defense is as good as A&M's defense, so that's another blueprint factor on the defensive side of the ball of what A&M could do. But again, you mentioned it, Trey Johnson, freshman. He can fill it up. He can score. Shedrick, number 5, 6'11". He's not afraid to face you up from 18 feet, just like Pharrell Payne, and take a couple of dribbles and try to get to the basket. Texas is long. They're athletic. Just because they don't have a number in front of their name right now doesn't mean that they won't by the end of the year. They're a good team, and they're an athletic team, and A&M has to bring it to win this game.
Since that game against UConn that you mentioned, Texas has beaten New Mexico State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, New Orleans, and Northwestern State. So, A&M had that lull as well where they played 2 Southland Conference teams. And for A&M, Logan, when you look at the Aggies, that if you were going to have Wade Taylor get banged up, if you were going to have some guys with bumps and bruises, this was the perfect stretch for you to lose them and, maybe reset them, maybe get some guys' legs underneath them. But I thought that these 2 games were important for A&M just to kind of take a deep breath. You're still playing. You're still in the flow of things. You get Wade back. But it was important because you had just really grinded through, 8 to 10 games to start the season, and you needed a little bit of a window going into this conference slate. So where are you at on the Aggies heading into not just the Texas game, but this bear of a schedule that is the league now?
I'm super excited about them. I think they can make a lot of noise in conference play this year, just because I think they're 13th now in the AP and 12th in the coaches, or I may have that flipped, and they're 6th or 7th in conference because SEC is so tough. I think they're going to win a lot of games. I think they're going to win. I mean, they have the potential to win 12 to 13 games. Now, that's high end. That is if everything goes right and they continue to progress and develop and play the way that they're playing. But I'd be satisfied with 10 wins in conference and a couple of wins in the tournament, and you're looking at a 3 seed. Last year, if you said they were only going to win 10 games in conference and a game in the conference tournament, you'd think, shoot, they're going to be a 6, 7, 8 seed because of the non-conference schedule, because of the SEC wasn't as strong last year as it is this year. This year, it is a gauntlet, night in and night out. They've got to keep their head down and keep pushing.
Yeah, and I was talking last week with Tom Hart when I hosted. It's almost like an SEC baseball schedule. Like, hey, you're going to take some bumps, dude. Like you're gonna have some bad nights on the floor. It's not about that night. It's about how you rebound from it, and you just can't let it snowball. And that's where I think the senior leadership of this team really comes into play. And let me ask you this, too. Like, as conference play starts, do you think Buzz starts tightening his rotation a little bit?
I think he will. I think that's just a natural progression of the team, and they're going to fall into roles, and he'll definitely tighten the rotation on a consistent basis. But I do think night in and night out, you're going to have a new guy show his face and give you some production that you need, that you didn't count on, but that you need to win the game. A Hayden Hefner is going to come in, and he may not score 15 points, but he gives you a solid 10 minutes, gets a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists, makes a 3, gets to the free throw line, whatever it may be. And you're going to see a different player each night doing that to go along with Wade's consistency and hopefully Jace Carter's consistency and being consistent in the paint with Henry Coleman and Pharrell Payne. Those guys, you're gonna have to see those guys being consistent, but also throw in 1 or 2 that can give you that extra bump, especially when you're playing the number 1, the number 2, the number 4, the number 5, the number 11 teams in the country. I mean, that's the schedule ahead of them.
Yeah, and I think, too, like, if you were going to make an examination of what you've seen in the non-conference heading into league play, where are some elements that you'd like to see A&M kind of clean it up or be more efficient? Because to me, and I don't know basketball at all, but it just seems like sometimes the ball gets stuck offensively, right? And I think that with the amount of guys that you have that can put the ball through the hoop, I think getting it stuck is not the best recipe for offensive efficiency with this team.
I think to not get the ball stuck, and one thing that they need to really hone in on is having some quick hitting plays. Having some, hey, if we run a guy off a double screen and may have a flare screen on the other side, whatever it is, to get the ball into whoever you need into their hands to make a shot. That's just a quick hitter, something that gets the flow, that gets the momentum changing. I think right now when we see the ball get stuck, it's because they don't have somebody to go to directly. They're relying on Wade to come off a screen and create or do something, and the defense focuses on that. Where is the quick hitter, that offensive set that they can run immediately and know that they can get a bucket? Where is the set that they set a back screen and throw a lob to Solo or throw a lob to Pharrell Payne, just to change the momentum and not make it as static as it can get at times?
And for your analysis, the defense, like where are they at? How pleased have you been? Can it get better?
Man, I tell you what, the defense is baffling to me. As much as they give up the baseline in the short corner, they don't give up any layups. And that is a credit to how much hustle and how much rotation they have, how well they play as a team. I think this defense has been really good. They have been stellar at times, especially against Purdue, the last tough matchup that they had. It was a clinic of what they did. And if they can continue to do that on the defensive end, it leaves a lot of margin for error on the offensive end. So even if they do struggle for 2 or 3 minutes at a time or four possessions in a row, whatever it may be, that defense is holding them down. And that's, to be honest, that's what's gotten them to the position that they're in right now.
Logan Lee joining us on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Aggies and Longhorns getting ready to hook it up on Saturday night at Reed Arena. Logan, when we talk about this game specifically, you played in it, you spoke about the emotion. What is one way that A&M can get settled into the game and not play off that emotion early on?
I think it's just relying on doing what they're supposed to do. Buzz does a good job of, this is our routine. This is rep number 1 in conference, but it is rep number 12 for the season. And rep number 12 should not be any different than rep number 11, 10, 9, whatever it may be. They've been in big games so far. I mean, Purdue was I think number 11 at the time or maybe number 10 at the time when they played them. So they've been in big games. Texas isn't a ranked team right now, but you can't play them as if they're not a ranked team. You have to play them as, hey, this is the start of the SEC season, so we need to go out and treat everybody as if they're a top 10 team, because I do think that everybody in the league, or 99% of the teams in the league, have top 10 talent on their team. It's just, have they put it together yet or not? So really, it's just about Buzz getting them in that same routine. You got to remember, half of these guys weren't even born or weren't even in high school when Texas and Texas A&M was the biggest rivalry. Mm-hmm. That was 14 years ago, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever it was, and these guys, they were 10 years old. They don't know about this. So to them, they've heard the stories, but they haven't felt the intensity. Next year, that might be a different story. Really, next game. So the next time that they play Texas, it'll feel more like that rivalry. But this one, it's just going out there, having fun, and winning a ball game.
Put yourselves in the shoes of the Texas coaching staff. How would you go about game planning success against this A&M team Saturday night?
Man, that's a good question. I would be physical with them, because A&M is a physical team. I would be very physical with them. I would try to push the tempo. And I wouldn't as much as I would say play fast, if they get into the half court, I would try everything I could do to get the ball to the middle of the paint and play from there. Whatever happens from there, because everybody so far because they're given the short corner and because that's the easy path, they've taken it. If I'm the Texas team, I'm saying, okay, force the ball to the middle, get it to the top of the key, play from the top of the key, take what they give you from there. Because when you're at the top of the key, they can't force you one way or the other. Now they can, but if they give you the right, you have the entire half of the court to work with. If they give you the left, you have the entire half of the court. So as Texas, I would say be very physical, push the tempo when possible, and get the ball to the top of the key.
Logan, I appreciate it, dude. We look forward to seeing you Saturday night. Maybe I'll get a text after the game. Who knows?
I'll probably receive a text from you during the game, and we'll go from there.
You won't respond. Thanks, dude. I appreciate your time.
See you, Bronny.
All right, that's Logan Lee getting us ready for Saturday night at Reed Arena, Texas A&M in Texas, the Lone Star Showdown, presented by Cotton Industries, renewed on the hardwood in front of the 12th man. When we come back, we're going back out to the Boss Firearms Hotline, I believe. Is that correct, Nick? Nick's shaking his head. Yes. We're going to have Fox Sports contributor and another great friend of the program, Aaron Torres. We'll discuss the playoff, maybe getting into some college hoops. A lot to talk about right now in early January. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
We're rolling right along on a Thursday morning. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair today inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. I'll be with you tomorrow before David returns next Monday. We go out to the Boss Firearms Hotline, talk to our great friend of the program, a man who's got his pulse all over college football, finger on the pulse of college football, college basketball, and everything in between, Mr. Aaron Torres. AT, good morning, buddy. AT.
You good?
Yeah, I got you now. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Now I got you. What's up, AT? How are you, dude?
Happy New Year. So I'm going to do the old flip things on you, and I'm gonna lead this off with a question for Bronny.
Okay.
So you are obviously as plugged in as anybody into the Texas high school scene, and you're plugged into a lot of things. But saw your tweet the other day about Cam Ward when he was in 4th grade, throwing darts all over the field. So let me ask you this. Does Ryan Brauninger think that Quinn Ewers will be playing college football for someone other than Texas next year?
That's a very interesting question and one we pondered in the first hour of the show, AT. I tend to believe that if he's playing college football next year, I think he would remain at Texas, although I don't know the inner workings of would Texas try to push him out in favor of Arch Manning. I think the more common, I think he'll probably try to test the NFL waters rather than go play somewhere else. But I don't know Quinn. So Quinn's a Dallas kid. Most of my coverage area resides from College Station to San Antonio over to Beaumont, essentially the southern half of the state. So I didn't get to know Quinn very, very well in high school. So I don't know what he's thinking, how loyal he is to the Texas program, what his draft grade is. But just my hunch is that if he's playing college football next year, it'll be at Texas.
Yeah, it's an interesting story that certainly emerged. And I think it's kind of an interesting, it's going to be a reality. I think in this college football, this new landscape is that, guys have extra years of eligibility. And I tend to think that, first of all, Sark is clearly incredibly loyal to him. I think there's been multiple times in the last 4 or 5 weeks that, maybe you should have gone to Arch Manning and see if you could have gotten a spark. They have not. So Sark is loyal to him, but I do think after this year, I think to expect Arch Manning to sit until what would then be his redshirt junior year or 4th year on campus, I don't think is realistic. And so, I don't know if you want to call him pushing out. I don't know if you want to call it whatever. I don't see a scenario where he's back at Texas next year. That's just speculation on my part. But I do think, to your point, I think it's more likely that at this point, back-to-back, college football playoff appearances, Texas is in a great place. I think it probably makes sense for him if he's going to not be at Texas next year to be a pro and just try to find the right landing spot. But, we'll see what happens. It's just an interesting story that's developed. And I think in this NIL portal world, it's just a fascinating byproduct of things that could happen. And by the way, really quick, I think it's something that, we could be critical of Quinn Ewers with this Texas team. Does he lower their ceiling? But there's also a lot of really good programs that he is a way better alternative than anything they currently have in the program. So it's just a thought, and I figured, you know the scene pretty well. I figured I'd ask you.
No, it brings up a broader discussion, I think, AT, and a hypothesis that I've come to formulate is if you go into the portal and spend a lot of money on an older quarterback that's proven, like a Riley Leonard, like a Cam Ward, like a Dylan Gabriel, perhaps like a Quinn Ewers, what does that do to the future of that position in your program? Because my hypothesis is, Aaron, if you do that, if you go get a Cam Ward, if you go get a Riley Leonard, a Dylan Gabriel, you better be ready to go do it again the next year.
I know. No, it makes it real tough, and I think the example we just saw, and I don't know if you saw this, but, Auburn takes Jackson Arnold, and you think, oh, okay, they're in really good shape. Deuce Knight's coming in as a true freshman. They got Walker White as a red shirt. And I don't know if you saw this, Barney. Auburn football put out a graphic once Jackson Arnold officially signed of, quarterback, future is bright or whatever. And then an hour later, Walker White hits the transfer portal. He's headed to Texas now. And so, to Baylor now, excuse me. And so, I do think it's an interesting musical chairs. Listen, I think this is a super cliche thing to say, but it's true is, I think when the programs aren't loyal to the players, I have no problem with the players not being loyal to the programs. And then to your point, like you said, you bring in a Cam Ward, you bring in a Riley Leonard, it might, by the way, it might work out. We can criticize Miami for how the season ended, but that was the best season they've had pretty much in 20 years. But also I do think it has this trickle down effect where, like you said, whether it works out or not, especially if the guy is a 1-year guy, you have to assume that probably the quarterback position is not going to be there's probably not going to be a lot of guys that sit around and are willing to just wait behind a guy that's kind of a hired gun. So it's a fascinating kind of new wrinkle in program building and all that stuff. And by the way, Quinn Ewers isn't the only one. I've seen all sorts of stuff about Jalen Milroe and some other older guys whose seasons are just now ending. So it's fascinating. It has made, certainly, and I know you know this covering the portal, it's made December and January now fascinating a time to cover college football as well, because even when the game's on the field end, there's still a lot to talk about.
Well, and there's going to be a price to success for programs perhaps like Boise State, perhaps like Arizona State, where they had an incredible season. And Kenny Dillingham, from my seat, my perspective, it appears he's got a great culture there in Tempe. But man, if he doesn't think his kids are going to be receiving phone calls through the agent world for promises to leave Tempe and go play for more money, like your success at a place like Arizona State or perhaps a place like Boise State is going to cost you money.
Well, and it's everywhere, right? I mean, Tennessee, who we all think is pretty well funded. I mean, they lost a ton of guys after their playoff run. And I think some of them weren't playing whatever, but I think they're this is a whole other conversation, which is also interesting, is the financial decisions that these schools have to make where, listen, I don't want to speak out of school, but I think it's fair to say that, we know what Nico was reportedly set to get coming out of high school. And so it's like, well, if that kid is making as much as we believe that he's making, then all of a sudden you have some tough decisions to make. And I think one thing I'll say, and I'll do a little bit of a cross-sport analysis here, but everybody saw the story about Leonard Hamilton, the Florida State basketball coach that's being sued by his former players because he made some NIL promises that he was frankly, reportedly, allegedly unable to keep. But I just bring it up because I think what it shows, and I know you know this, and I know Nuno knows it, I know Billy knows it, is, when we see, X number of players enter the portal, whether it's, 1,000 across college football or whether it's 15 off one roster or whatever, I think, we always default in our coverage to, oh man, all these players, they're just trying to get a bag. They're just trying to get this. They're just trying to get that. And it's like, so much more goes into it. Now, certainly there are players that are just leaving to get more money or opportunity or whatever. But also there's a lot of times where a kid wants to stay and the school either tells them, you got to go, or we can't financially take care of you the way that you want to. Or I think it just shows that, especially the Leonard Hamilton story, just that it's a lot of times the chaos doesn't come from the kid. It comes from the administrative side of things. So again, this is the brave new world of college sports that we've created. But like I said, I'll say this: it allows us a lot to talk about. Again, December and January in college football, and then April and May have kind of become chaotic in college basketball as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't have NIL discussion, portal discussion on my rundown to talk to you about. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the playoffs a little bit, but AT, you're right. Like, this is driving all the discussion and has made usually a really slow time for national college football writers. Even our program, obviously A&M basketball is playing well right now, but this was kind of a slower period until the students come back to campus and Reed Arena starts getting packed out. But I'm going to make you college football commissioner, Czar, and what you say goes. Day one, what do you do to clean this mess up?
What do I do to clean this mess up? It's tough. I mean, there's no easy answers. And I think if there were easy answers, they would have been implemented by now. I think what we realize, though, is every time we put in a rule, there are unintended consequences. And so it's easy to say, it's easy to say, just make the portal after the season. Okay, well, there's this thing called the academic calendar. Don't think, you can't just transfer in March and be eligible to play. And I think for every team that's in the college football playoff, there's a school that, you could sit there and say, well, just make the football portal in the spring after spring practice. Well, tell that to any school that, tell that to Auburn that's bringing in a new quarterback. Tell that to Jackson Arnold that wants to transfer and isn't able to. It's like, so I think there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. By the way, even with this house settlement, schools paying directly instead of the collectives. Like we all know there's going to be side deals. We all know it's going to be hard, if not impossible, to regulate. So, I think it's more nuanced than a 2 or 3 minute conversation, Bronny. I know you know that, but like all these issues, it seems like, it's easy to just sit there on social media or whatever and say, blame the NCAA for this, screw that, this is a mess, this is that. And it's like, but all of these issues are way more nuanced, way more complicated. Everything gets pushed back. If you try to implement anything, you're getting sued by somebody. So it's hard to say. But I do think, obviously, even having these conversations, it's clear that changes do need to be made. But I'm not gonna lie, you hit me at 7:33 local time with the biggest issue in college football after I was hosting radio until 1 a.m. last night. So I don't know if I have all the answers out about 5 hours sleep right now.
Well, hey, I'll let you go then, AT. I always appreciate your time and you kind of battling through it. Happy New Year. Hope to be talking to you soon. Maybe you make a trip down to College Station. We get you in studio face to face one time.
Dude, I got to get down there. Final Four's in San Antonio this year. I'm planning on being there. So I promised Nuno 2 years ago, I'll swing by when I'm in Houston for the Final Four. Yeah, that never happened. So maybe 2025 will be the year for Torres finally to get down to College Station. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping we can make it happen.
Come on, I'll let you stay at Nuno's house.
Okay, maybe you can take me out though. I hear Nuno's not very fun on a Thursday or Friday.
You're gonna need Liucci for that. No question. You need Billy for that. AT, I appreciate your time. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
All right, that's Fox Sports radio host and great friend of the program, Aaron Torres. When we come back, I think Billy Liucci in studio on the phone. By now, you guys know how this works. It's New Year. It's Same Billy on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ryan Brauninger inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. One thing that I have not discussed, I know there's a pretty big football game happening this afternoon, but the Under Armour game, also All-American game happening at 4 p.m. Oh, that's Eastern. So 3 o'clock Central, Texas A&M signee Landon Rink will be involved in that. Our recruiting coverage will head to San Antonio next week for, it used to be the Army All-American Bowl, now the Navy All-American Bowl. A lot of A&M targets. They're allowing underclassmen to play in those games now. So not only A&M signees, but now big-time A&M targets in the classes of 26, 20. I don't think there's any 27s, but 26s for sure. That's a pretty cool new development for those All-Star games. As we welcome in Billy Liucci, very busy few days, even with holidays in between, Billy. Lots of additions, obviously playoff games, portal news for the Aggies, coaching rumors flying everywhere. Where do you want to start? You're very bundled up today.
Yeah, I was going to walk the dog this morning is what happened. I went and got my coffee. I was walking the dog, and it was cold this morning. Felt great. I love it. I'll tell you my favorite times to walk the dog are early morning on these really cold mornings and late at night when no one's out and you can smell like the people when you're walking through the neighborhood, like the fires, the fire outside when it's.
But that's whenever you see these supposed animals in your neighborhood.
Oh yeah, 100%. Ask anybody.
Nick, do you think that there's mountain lions in South College Station?
Thank you, Nick. I didn't say. First of all, let me say I've never claim that I've seen a mountain lion on my walk with Griffin.
You said they're in College
or Graham
Station.
Before that.
And you said they're in Bryan.
I did not say they were. I said in the Brazos Valley, there have been mountain lions caught in the Brazos Valley.
Caught?
Killed. Killed. Look it up. And cited, too. And cited. Obviously, there's been sightings. I'm not sure there's not one in Traditions. I'm not positive there's not one out there. And in my little neighborhood, Brauninger, this is what, I don't know.
Which is not far from mine.
My little neighborhood, name an animal, I'll tell you if I've seen it.
Well, all I've seen is rabbits and coyotes.
There's a ton of rabbits, ton of coyotes. There's coyotes, as I call them, because I'm not on the cast of Yellowstone. Coyotes, or I'm not Stephen McGee. He probably says like yotes.
Did you listen to any of that?
I can't imagine.
It was
McGee. If he talked about the bowl game, he wants a robot QB, and that's.
He was very impassioned about Marcel's development.
Marcel's development as a freshman. I would like to compare notes of all these quarterbacks as freshmen, and I actually think Marcel has.
I was encouraged by.
I was too. I was very encouraged. Anyway, foxes, bobcats, hogs, deer.
I've seen a fox.
Rabbits, copperheads by the dozens.
You are a good snake
rat
identifier.
Rat snakes.
How do you know the difference? Like on site, you can't see your phone.
No, actually, I must look down when I'm walking because I've been trained now because there's so many of them on the sidewalk in the evening.
But like if you look down and see a snake,
it could be that big, and I know.
But you know what kind of snake it is.
Yeah, well, first of all, if you know, like copperheads are very easy to
recognize. You watch a lot of Steve
rat
Irwin?
Snakes, the big ass rat snakes that are like 4+ feet, 5 feet. That you know what that is. I did have one try to come into my house one time. And I shut the front door on it, and I've got the video. I need to show it one day. The front half of the snake is like this inside my house. The back half is outside the front door doing this. I didn't know what kind that was, but I think Twitter told me it was like some kind of hog-nosed rat snake.
What'd you do with it?
I called my neighbor and I said, I'm going to open the front door, push it outside, you kill it.
I saw one of your neighbors on New Year's Eve, dressed like a cowboy.
I have no idea who that would be.
Oh, yeah, I text you about it. And you didn't, and you responded.
Okay. I don't know.
You also look like you had a fun New Year's Eve with a couple of your very close friends.
Yeah, well, Teddy Burton.
Oh, we've
been talking since he got here about when he was done. He wanted to go, rip it up in Vegas, and we got the opportunity.
Oh, I was talking about Slarks.
And by the way, we were out for about 45 minutes, I think it was. But
that wasn't New Year's, though.
No, it wasn't. That was a long night. Oh, New Year's, yeah. So anyway, I don't want my New Year's plans out there.
Oh, okay.
I had to. There was some I don't want them out there for the public.
Okay. I just know one person you were with.
So I didn't hear this morning, but I knew. I was like, okay, here's my deal. Like, I thought Marcel. Here's what's interesting about Marcel Reed. You look at I thought he did a lot of things in the bowl game, Bronny, that I hadn't seen him do as much of. Which, like, on that game-ending drive, the checkdowns, and those are things.
Decisive with the football.
Decisive with the ball, in rhythm and on time a few times in that game within the offense. But, man.
Catch a slant, his stat line looks incredible. If he catch a slant.
What would he have had, 4 touchdowns?
4 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Yeah, and that was a nice throw should have been 6 right there to put him up, 14 zip. So, he was not I don't want to say he wasn't the issue because he was actually, he was really good in that game. I mean, yes, we can go pick apart a lot, and I think even when he's really finally hits that maturation point where he's, a seasoned veteran QB, I think his style of play is going to be such that we can nitpick because he's going to, as he gets better and better, is also going to take chances. But here's what I know about Marcel. I know that in 2 of A&M's last 3 games, he led the Aggies down the field in the closing minutes of a football game to win the game. And he put them in the end zone twice there late, right? Auburn and USC. Rallied them on the road against Auburn. I don't know what his stats were in that one off the top of my head, but it had to be pretty damn good. I know he threw 1 pick. I know he had a couple touchdowns to Noah. It was probably – look up his stats.
22 of 35 for 297 and ran for 66.
And then combine that with that bowl. And how many touchdowns? 2-1 or 3-1?
2 touchdown passes to Noah in that. Let's see. I think he had 3 touchdown passes against Auburn.
Yeah, I do too. And maybe I think a touchdown run. No, that was
that wasn't no. I was going off of generative AI was giving me all my.
Oh, well, that just sounds silly.
I know.
So, point being, 2 of his last 3 games, he filled up the stat sheet and I thought played pretty damn well. Was certainly one of the reasons A&M, let's just say, should have won both of those games.
And again, if there were drops against Auburn that greatly, but it diminishes his stat line and his impact.
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly impacted the game result.
Sure.
You think of those drops down the stretch there at Auburn, and then obviously we talked about the touchdown there. But no, it's unfair to say far from one of the problems. I mean, I think he was a real strength in those games. Texas got after him. That's one of the couple best defenses in the country, and that was not a good day for him or anyone wearing maroon and white.
He rode ups and downs, man. He's a young quarterback, and that's what. I think when you have to look past the result of the game and kind of be nuanced with his progression.
Yeah.
It wasn't good against Texas. It was good against Auburn. It was good against USC. You're going to have to beat teams like Texas to get where you want to go. But Marcel has shown, to me, I'm way more encouraged with Marcel at the end of the year than at any other point. Maybe even after the half against LSU.
Let me ask you this. Were you just say yes or no? Encouraged or grade it positive, negative? Or whatever you want to say. I'm going to go real quick. Florida.
Yes.
Okay. Arkansas. Tougher game for him, but got the ball with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, he went down. I would lean positive, but it was neutral probably.
Yeah. I would say positive because the ending pushed me one way. It pushed me from slightly negative to slightly positive. He led a game-winning drive in Jerry World in his second start, right? And it was mostly Moss, but remember in that game how he was scrambling and started the last couple drives there? Positive. No Mississippi State, no Missouri. LSU.
Positive.
Obviously. South Carolina, I'd say negative. Big interception late. Looked like he had settled in, though, but negative. Auburn, positive. Texas, negative. USC, positive.
Right. So you're, again... And some of those negatives.
I've got 2 negatives, though.
I know.
And 5 positives as a freshman.
He got zero help. Like in the positives, he got zero help since he got losses to his starting record because, quite frankly, you couldn't get one stop.
Yeah.
And it's
so, I mean, like we can nitpick, and McGee, I understand what he does. I totally do. He is like he is like our coach in studio.
Yep.
He is looking at that with the eyes of a coach, and he's like Hunter in that he's got this mindset of, I need to see this moving forward, or as a coach that runs an offense, I don't think I'll win the game. That's how he's looking at it. So you got to understand that, and I love that he does that. But then you also have Swope over here who looks at it as the eyes of, I played with Johnny, and Swope's whole personality is that they're so different, and they're like best friends. And Swope is like a freewheeling, dealing. Let's go out there and just play ball and see what happens. And that's why McGee's going to gravitate towards the Connors of the world, and Swope's going to gravitate toward the Marcells.
All right, we come back. Real short segment. Billy, you probably don't even need to come back. So you got a little bit of a break. We'll get you back in here at 10 o'clock. Real short segment. Maybe get some updates from, who knows? Does Kay want to come talk? Does Nick want to talk? We'll see. End of the hour on TexAgs Live when we come back, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, real quick, let's give away pizza on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. 979-693-1150. Caller number 12 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls from Double Dave's or a large one-topping pizza, serving Aggieland since 1984. Your favorite pizza, world-famous pepperoni rolls, a reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com and your favorites are on the way. 979-693-1150 from Double Daves. When we come back, Billy Liucci rejoins the show. We got to talk playoff. We got to talk transfer portal. We got to talk coaching rumors. So a lot to get to. You're going to want to tune in to that when we come back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, 10 o'clock hour, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Ryan Brauninger, in the Rollo Insurance Studios. What's going on?
This is I bought it. It is the largest. It's a 2X. So some places like 2Xs are perfect. Some, an XL is just laughably small, especially in like hoodies. This is it's enormous. Look, it's comfortable.
Hunter Goodwin of.
It's like Hunter's pants. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Hunter's pants. Like I look like I could fly away in it. But,
when you're a big guy, it's trying to determine what is the right X amount is very difficult.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's X2, and I'm on that line. So it just depends on the shirt.
Well,
that's a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I'm losing weight.
How much?
I don't know. I don't get on scales, but I don't want to be in this kind of purgatory on shirt sizes, like what fits and what doesn't. So if I lose weight, then I know I fit into stuff.
That's fair. I like that. That's my goal is just a cool 20. I got to be careful though. I can't do.
You can't go back to COVID, Billy.
What I've done before, but not only that, but every time I try to lose weight, and really commit to it, I start going back to
quit going to lunch with Richard so much.
Yeah, seriously.
That's what happens.
It is what it's.
And he's not going to stop you because he wants to glom on and get the free meal.
For sure. No, he doesn't. He did once. So if I'm, that's where I got to be careful though. But I think the fact that nowadays I actually regularly go to the gym and lift weights, I don't think I'll go there. But I'm naturally inclined to, I believe it or not, be skinny. And you go back growing up, skinny, right up till college. So
I've seen
we got to be careful.
Pictures.
We got to be careful.
My other New Year's resolution was to make sure people understand how much I appreciate them. So I'm trying to.
You're welcome.
I've told you that, but I plan on doing that more.
Well, that's nice of you. I think that's a good New Year's resolution.
My reasoning for that is that we pick a bunch here.
Yeah.
And we pick because we like each other.
Yeah.
But you also need to make sure people understand, hey, I appreciate, because Nick will sit back there and work every day of the year and not ever complain once, and we'll pick on Nick a bunch. But Nick needs to know, he kind of stirs the drink here.
Nick probably gets picked on the least. I mean, I probably should make a resolution to pick on him more, so he feels like more part of the group. He might be wondering if I like him or not, because I don't. But Nick knows how much I appreciate him. Nick just doesn't,
He doesn't need it. He doesn't want it.
He wants to work and go home.
Yep. All right. Where do you want to start here? I think top of mind for everybody would be Noah going into the portal.
I think so.
But
start there.
Okay.
Start there.
So what do you think? I mean, do you want to get into what you've heard, possibilities of staying and returning, that kind of stuff? What? Why he went in?
Tell Zane and Nick they ought to. Okay. Honestly, here's my deal. And it's unfortunate we are where we are today with NIL and the portal and fans. Our fans and every fan will get really mad if a player that they want to stay or think should stay goes in the portal. And they will probably post and write a lot of things that will not help said player come back. That happens everywhere. And then you've got the Twitter narcs and these losers that at every fan base that try to find something that someone said and post it. It's just a crappy situation all the way around, because there's crappy people everywhere that probably didn't make New Year's resolutions like yours, Bronny. But to say this, Texas A&M wants to keep Noah Thomas. If I was a betting man, I would bet that they don't keep Noah Thomas if you made me bet money, but I'm not confident enough in it that I would make that bet. There's a chance he comes back. They're still in communication. I think Georgia in particular was a big part of convincing him to go into the portal.
James Coley specifically.
James Coley over there, which is ironic because the first couple rough years here for Noah were with James Coley on staff and at maybe even coaching receivers.
He did coach receivers 1 year.
So sometimes I think, you you see things one way and different. I don't know who's Georgia's quarterback next year.
Probably Gunnar Stockton. Right, Stockton.
You know, we talked about Marcel Reed. What do you know about Gunnar Stockton other than he's tough? You know a lot more about Marcel. He knows a lot more about you. Georgia does need receivers. It doesn't mean he's going to end up there. I know Texas is sniffing around. I'm sure Ole Miss is sniffing around. Tennessee's involved. I mean, look, everybody's going to go after a guy that scored, 8 touchdowns this year? And you put his highlights on, and his top-end highlights are up there with damn near anyone. If you took, his top 10 catches of his time at A&M, you're going, oh, wow. And that wasn't one of them. That was just the most recent game. This was one of them. I mean, a guy that can do that, he's going to command a lot of money in the portal. My thing is when you do that, you go and you make a choice for 1 year, and you think that's going to, you've got agents and these things like this now, everybody, and they are convincing you that that's going to be a better move to get eyes on you on tape for the next level. And that's what Elko and Klein and everybody's fighting against. The schools that don't have you yet, it's an easier sell. Like, where does he fit in Texas' receiving corps?
Yeah,
I mean, that's loaded.
Yeah.
Where does he? How much is Georgia and Gunnar Stockton going to get him the football?
Well, and how much do you lose if you're Noah having to learn a whole new playbook and get in rhythm? Like, you've already started to build some chemistry with Marcel.
Yeah,
playbook, and you know the
Marcel,
playbook. And I think that Marcel has been recruited against, no question. We know that for a fact. People are saying he can't throw the ball. It's overstated and it's been overused, and it's just been accepted as fact when the numbers actually say the arrow's pointing way up here in terms of A&M's potential to throw the ball.
Casey Concepcion had been beaten down with that, and he came to practice and was like, watch practice, and said, oh, yeah, I can come here and play with him. Because he actually watched and saw it. So, yeah, I mean, here's the deal. You go in the portal, you make more money. Do I think Noah Thomas is going in to try to get more money? Nope. I genuinely do not believe that. I think he would get more money to stay here. And I mean, I'm not saying they'd pay him more than anybody else would, but because of leverage and because he's the only kind of veteran receiver, he's the only big, tall receiver, he would get taken care of very well to stay at A&M. I don't think I'm going in to get paid more. I think he's got an agent. I think there are people in his ear saying, go get more balls. And again, that is not a sure thing. It's not a sure thing if you go there with other competition. It's not a sure thing if you go to a place where you don't know the quarterback. And by the way, Georgia's had issues over the years outside of Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers and McConkey. That little run there, outside of that on each side of Kirby.
Name a big receiver that they've got not named George Pickens.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Outside of that window, they've had a lot of issues.
If I'm advising Noah, I'm like, the least risky scenario here is returning to Texas A&M.
And you wonder how he feels about 3 portal receivers. To me, I'd look at that whole room if I'm him. This is me. I mean, and look, I've understood that, the logic sometimes goes out the window when you got every coach in the country outside of your own telling you something. But also, you and I can sit here without having the emotion and the stress of a decision that you've put on yourself, first of all. But it is a decision that every college football player has. If you don't think Marcel Reed, and you can be as critical of him or as praise him as much as you want or whatever, the one thing you have to understand, or you don't know jack, what about college football today, is what that kid could have gone out in the portal and commanded. As an SEC starting quarterback that was a freshman. But he stayed. He made the decision to not go into those waters and get overwhelmed, because I think if he done it, I don't think he would have stayed, because it would have been just too much. And that's why I don't think Noah went in there just to go out in the open waters. I think I think there
it's
was
a leverage
there was,
play.
No. I think there was a specific team that was, or team or two that were playing in there that convinced that to happen behind the scenes. Hey, look, A&M, I promise you, has done that with guys. There were guys that I think you and I talked about that we thought we're gonna go into the portal that we thought A&M would get. Now, why would we think that? Everybody. So this is not like, this program's the bad guys. This program, but I just think when you do the way this feels, like it doesn't feel like one. It's going to take a lot to pull him back, and that's what I think. And here's the deal, though. With these receivers, if I'm him, Bronny, I'm looking at this roster, and I'm going, I'm the best one today. I'm the best one today. I was the best one this fall. I was the biggest threat. Now, I loved Jabri Barber this year too. I'd say on a third down, sometimes I'd like to see us go to number 1 here. But he was the best one this year. He was the leading receiver, catches, yards, touchdowns. Today, out of everyone coming back, he's the best one. He's going to be a senior, returning with a quarterback. And when you throw in Concepcion and Craver and Hudson, look, you lost Moose. Who else did they lose?
Jade.
Moose and Jade are out. They caught a bunch of passes. There's Cyrus Allen early in the year. He transferred. Like, you need guys. So don't you want the best guys? And if you're Noah, and whatever attention he got this year as, in theory, wide receiver 1, and whatever attention he got as that should be gone. And that's the whole point of getting guys like Concepcion and Craver, and hopefully, ideally, Hudson makes a big impact this year as well. When you do that, like, Noah, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're going to be one of the guys. You also are our only guy with height and size on the outside. Like, he's not going anywhere. And in fact, if you look at his freshman, sophomore, and he was injured, freshman, sophomore, junior season, it's gone boom, boom, boom. So anyway, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think people are preying on the emotion of this is my last audition for the NFL, because I do think he has an NFL future in some capacity, and he's trying to maximize that. I think people that don't think it's that big a loss are wrong. I think people that think it's the end of the world are wrong. You can live in the middle.
Sure.
I think he could help A&M win a lot of games next year. I think he'd start.
Nobody wants to have nuanced discussions about much of anything regarding the portal right now. And then, so what that does for me, at least, as somebody that's covering the portal, what does A&M do at the position now? Is there another need, or are they satisfied with what they've got? I thought it was very interesting at the end of the year that Ashton Bethel-Roman was named the offensive scout team player of the year. Kind of matches with what we had heard about him coming out of practices. But there's not a guy in the portal right now that will replace Noah. Maybe the True Edwards kid out of Louisiana Tech, but there's not been much traction there. Could that pick up? But we know that they have a need on the interior defensive line. We don't know if they're going to go back out to try to replace Noah at receiver if they're unable to get him back.
If they're unable to get him back, I would certainly try to. I don't know that you replace. I think if he leaves, I think it just creates more of a clear pathway for like, hey, Micah, this is your chance. Like, let's go. Not that they're the same player, but they can both go up and get touchdowns in the red zone.
What does Jerome Miles look like?
Yeah, Jerome Miles. But I would go and I would expect, I would go out in effort to get someone with size out there, and I would expect them to do it. If they get a feeling that he's not returning. Again, they're trying to get him to come back, and the reason why is he could be a big part of this offense.
For sure. And
just be a leader. Like, just even forget about him, the playmaker. And look, again, he still had, like, I don't think Noah Thomas walks around thinking that he's an NFL first-round pick or second. I would hope not, because he's not yet. he has so far to go as a player, and a lot of it has to do with what happened his first 2 years here. He was playing hurt. How many offenses has the guy been in? 3?
It's 3 in 3 years.
And he's finally getting a chance to be in the same offense again with help, with a running game, with a returning quarterback. But I don't think sometimes that's not going to be enough to matter. And it's unfortunate. But we'll see. We'll see. That is the portal. But I would say don't get too emotional because A, he might come back, and B, like I said, it hurts. It wouldn't end the season. And C, the other part of it is your team, no matter who you are, and if you're an Aggie, Texas A&M, is out there doing the same thing to other schools. Like Mississippi State fans probably hate A&M for Craver going there, and they're probably wondering why. Why would you leave Jeff Levy? And we got, hell, I don't even know who they got. Who'd they get at quarterback? Because they thought they were getting Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, who transferred in?
Somebody. But, they're doing that. They're, why?
Left,
why? And then they're doing the same thing. Texas Tech did the same thing when Micah Hudson came here. Don't be like Tech. We don't want a smear campaign with fake NIL. I promise you, wherever
Luke Cromanoke.
Who?
From Florida State.
Luke who?
Cromanoke.
Is he like the fourth guy that went in?
No, he was. I think he came in.
Let me guess.
DJ.
He's an Elite 11.
Probably.
Like everybody in the world's Elite 11. It's like the Elite 111. It feels like, because I've never met a quarterback that's not been in the Elite 11. Look, don't be like Tech. If he ends up not coming back, let's not say that he make up some fake meme that he had a driver going around, although that would be appropriate if you end up at Georgia. Probably Kirby should get their whole team drivers, but it's every fan base wonders why somebody leaves their school to go somewhere else. Every fan base celebrates a guy coming, and they go, when he gets into the program, like, why would he not want to come here? Things are looking up. The arrow's pointing up. Look what, so it goes both ways. It just does.
All right, we come back. A lot more portal to get to. Guys on campus today and tomorrow. If you've been keeping up with our transfer portal tracker thread on the site, you know that, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And then get Billy's takes on these playoff games that happened yesterday. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. 10:23 on a Thursday morning. Happy New Year from us here at TexAgs. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Continue our discussion with executive editor, co-owner Billy Liucci about transfer portal and A&M's dealings in the transfer portal. Positions of need remaining. We kind of hit receiver, Luch. Obviously, defensive tackle line, interior defensive line, defensive tackle.
In particular,
yeah. That I think they need 2. Maybe 3. I think the problem is that people are like, we need to add this, and this, and that's been a complaint. A&M needs a linebacker. I know you've been, and you just go through and look what's in the portal right now. There ain't much.
Yeah, that's the thing. It has to be. What was the guy's name that they signed from Miami of Ohio?
Well, they signed the kid from Youngstown State, Alex
State,
Howard.
Yeah, like you, and nothing against him, but they're at a point now where you don't need to oversign guys and figure out who's best. So they signed Alex Howard, but they also got Scooby and DeShields, who were clearly better than Alex Howard. Alex Howard lasted all of a spring. There were a couple of O-linemen that came here and went through the spring, and then they quickly realized we're not playing, and they left. You don't need to do that in year 2 if you're Mike Elko in the portal. It is truly it's truly about, are we upgrading what's on the field everywhere except D-line. I think D-line, you also need to build depth too right now. They're still there. But you don't have to go and just across the board and make your program's depth better and be in a panic. And that's what happens when you're a first-year head coach. That's not going on this year. If I see a linebacker that can make my unit better, I'm going and getting him because I'm looking at it and I'm going, I love Scooby, love Torian. I think Sanford going to make another big jump. I'm excited about his future. And then everybody else is young and unproven. If one of your 2 top guys got banged up or got hurt in the spring or in camp or early in the season, that's how I think you need to operate. You don't need to do that, hey, if both or if we lose Ruben and Le'Veon. I don't think you have to go that far into it, but certainly to say, what if we lost one of our starters today? How do you feel? I wouldn't feel great about that position over the long haul. So I would still be looking for that. But again, like you said, if you can't find one better than the guys that are on your campus that you think are coming up, that's fine. I think they've got a true freshman in Noah McHale that could make a big impact.
Yep.
You see that it's all around college football now. It's okay. They're that good. I would look, Brawny, I'm going to be honest with you. I would look at safety.
Well, they got Christian Harrison coming in. There's also some stuff out there. Well, we'll see. But we've been reporting that DB is on the table.
Well, I certainly think nickel is on the table, and maybe one more corner with the ability to play nickel. And you look at the guy from Washington that went in, or no, not Washington, Tennessee. The guy from Tennessee that went in. You look at him. I think he'll be a real target for the Aggies. Like they'll identify him as probably a take, right?
Visiting tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he'd be a take. And then you look at. I'm just saying, he gets
in town today.
You watch that game against USC. I just saw, man, too many bad angles. And this is not even about one guy. This is about let's just say the position as a whole. I saw too many bad angles. I saw Dalton Brooks felt like the one guy that was consistently there, could make plays on the ball. I think that's a position I would look to add in the secondary as well.
Yeah, and then the interior defensive line. So you got Tyler Onyedim on campus today.
Mm-hmm.
He got in late last night, so he's still here. And that's a kid from Richmond Foster who played high school football with Ruben Fothery. Also very interesting, none of those offensive linemen went in or haven't up to this point. So you may get an entire room back.
I mean, they're gonna get either the entire room or damn close to it.
Yeah.
So,
I digress. But Onyedim feels like a priority guy
for sure.
Highly productive college career at Iowa State. returning home to the state of Texas. I think that's one that you got to kind of put a star on, got to get it over the line.
If you're Anya Dean, you got to be looking at this going, man, I have a great opportunity to walk in to an SEC team and start day one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not guaranteed. You got Regis and Hicks.
Yep.
But he's got to look at that and be like, man, I could walk in and make an immediate impact. And if you're the kid, you're like, I can walk in and start.
Right. And A&M has shown, and Mike Elko has shown that he is going to rotate.
Plays all those guys.
Yeah, and then they got David Gusta from Washington State, who's one of the more highly coveted interior guys coming to town today.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to get at least 2 big bodies. And
they've got
you've
a
been saying
third.
that.
Well, it's not. You know, there were rumors rampant that Clemson guys were going in, and only one of them went in, and he was not one of the impact players that I think most of college football thought were going in. So Dabo did a job of keeping a couple of those D linemen. I think coaches around the country, you know, and again, this isn't the agent world where kind of that guy or guys, girls, whoever were representing those couple of Clemson guys, the word was kind of out that they were going in.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a well-kept secret, and they didn't do it. So credit Dabo and Clemson, but I think A&M would have been big players for those guys.
Auburn had a guy go in that went back to Auburn.
Yeah.
So there's been some really, this stuff, it changes
I've heard
so
Hugh
fast.
Freeze is fighting dirty too. They're like threatening these kids that they owe all X amount of money back. This is it's already a tired game, but it ain't going anywhere, so you better play it.
Yep. All right, when we come back, we're going to kind of switch over, get Billy's thoughts on these playoff games yesterday, what the national championship could potentially look like. Ohio State walks away from Oregon pretty handily. So a lot to get to still on this edition, a Thursday morning edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair for today and tomorrow. David will be back with you guys on Monday. We continue our conversation with Billy Liucci. Semifinals getting close to set. There's a Sugar Bowl today, Billy, but yesterday at least provided, the Peach Bowl provided a little bit of entertainment that we've quite frankly lacked in these playoffs so far.
A lot of entertainment.
Yep.
And by the way, first and foremost for everyone in New Orleans, I mean, you say things like this, and what does it really mean? Like, be safe. It just means you're being a human being. Everybody's, hopeful that everything's under control there, which I believe it is. I believe with that much local, state, government, national attention, I think they've got that thing under wraps, and they'll be fine playing that game today. To me, it was a very obvious move just to move it back a day. I think it was completely necessary. I'm excited about that game, first of all. I don't think it's going to look anything like the game we watched yesterday with Texas and Arizona State.
I'd bet the under.
Yeah, or the Rose Bowl. I don't even know what it is, and I'd bet the under. Or the Rose Bowl, which was high scoring in a different way. I guess let's start there because Oregon, I felt like Ohio State was a better football team than Oregon going into that game. Well, my question was, did Oregon on some level have Ohio State's number? My other question was what we saw from Ohio State versus Tennessee. Was that them playing at home and it all coming together against an overrated Tennessee squad? Or was that Ohio State turning the corner and that Michigan game woke the sleeping beast?
I was watching.
And that's what it was.
I was watching the McAfee broadcast, and that's what A.J. Hawk was saying. It was like, you talk to people inside the program at Ohio State, and it was like the Michigan loss, at least that's what they were saying, was like got their head right.
Yeah.
And they thought that was the turning point. And so you're right there. I mean, they look like the best team in the country, bar none right now.
They look like the team everyone thought they were going to look like this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not looking like that team early in the year, and they still took Oregon to the final 30 seconds at Oregon at night. With that said, I'm sitting there going, man, they went into Happy Valley and won.
It's not even offensively that's impressive to me.
It's everything, though. But
their front four is incredible.
And that linebacker's 32 is an animal.
Yes, 0 is an animal. Their front four was just, I mean, I was looking at some stuff this morning on my scrolls before the show started, and they were talking about, some of the national guys talking about how very little they blitzed, and they were just wreaking havoc against the Oregon offensive line.
Well, and that was, people were asking me, because we're Aggies and we ask these questions, and I will damn sure not apologize for it. They're like, which team is better equipped to beat Texas? Because everyone was just assuming Texas is getting past ASU. And my answer consistently, even though I know Dylan Gabriel beat them, and I would argue with you on Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard, although Will Howard these last couple weeks looks like he looks as good as any quarterback in college football. The way he's playing, the way he's throwing the football, doing that against Tennessee's defense and against Oregon. I know he's got weapons, but damn, he is playing elite level football right now. With that said, I kept saying it's Ohio State because they have the lines of scrimmage to match up with Texas, which, by the way, ASU, their defensive front right here. I mean, they got after that long.
They were outmanned, undersized, and they
if you had told me they were going to completely shut down that Texas run game, I would not have believed you, and they damn sure did. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just think Ohio State, Bronny, could match up. And then Oregon's got a lot of speed and playmakers and stuff. But what Ohio State has at the skill positions, it's literally just NFL every iteration they put on the field, every top to bottom. It's National Football League players and a lot of high round draft picks at the skill spot. So they can match up with what I think is a really good back seven for Texas.
And you mentioned the confidence of Will Howard in throwing to guys. I mean, the throw he made to Egbuka is might be the throw of the year in college football. That was an incredible throw. And then Jeremiah Smith, looks like the second coming of a smaller Calvin Johnson. The way he it's incredible.
I think he's so much better than Marvin Harrison. And think about how good Marvin Harrison was for them. Yep. It's not, to me, and it's not even close when I watch them play. So the Buckeyes, look, they don't get an award. They still have to go beat Texas. I think Oregon got screwed, royally screwed by this seeding method to have to open up the playoff playing Ohio State. They should have been playing Arizona State. They should have been playing Boise State. The fact that they played Ohio State with that seeding, we could talk all day.
We'll see what happens. If Notre Dame beats Georgia, then none of the teams that got a bye will have won. And that rust versus being sharp, everybody wants a rest.
That's several weeks of rust.
Yep.
So unless you play in that game the week earlier, or like it's really 10 days earlier, so even those teams are getting just enough. Unless you get guys hurt by playing the extra game, it actually probably helps you. So anyway, moving on, Texas, Arizona State. I guess let's start with the targeting.
That's where Olin started.
I mean, here's my deal. Sit down as a sport. And I'm going to start by saying this. Because I don't want to be that guy, because I always like being that guy, but I'm gonna be fair here and say this. That Arizona State kicker, that was not going to win the game. If Bert Auburn would have gone down and kicked that field goal at the end, I would have said that non-targeting call lost the game for him. Because it gave Texas enough time. Because if they'd have called it first down and the Arizona State kicker missed it, Texas would have had no time left and we're going to overtime. When it happened, I was like, this is going to cost them the game. You give Ewers and that offense over a minute to get in field goal range, and they did. But Bert Auburn's in his own head right now. I mean, that dude, he's a mess at the worst time. And that's kickers.
Maybe Sark looking deep into his eyes before he kicked.
Yeah, that was meme material. I don't know what Sark was trying to do. I guess, honestly, put yourself in his shoes. He's probably like, I got no faith in this guy right now. I've got to do something drastic. I'm going to try to hypnotize him.
As a coach, like if you do something out of character, it makes the kid almost feel like, what, like I was fine until you came up to me and gave me this big vote of confidence.
But then, and Sark would probably be like, no, you're not fine, dude. You're missing every freaking kick. But you're right. It was strange, and it became a meme. Of course, he missed it. But so my point is, Bronny, it didn't necessarily lose the game. I do think Arizona State would have had time to run offense, gain some more yards. I think they win that game with a walk-off field goal if they call it. It doesn't guarantee it. And guess what?
Their kicker was a disaster all year too.
And guess what? Auburn missed another. He missed one to give him the chance. He missed another one to send it to overtime. And you had a 4th and 13, which, and I'm glad Dillingham said it, I don't understand. And as soon as they did it, and I know you and I were on the group text, I'm like, as soon as they lined everyone up at the line of scrimmage and didn't disguise that at all and just said, we're bringing the house, veteran quarterback, great receivers, great tight end, we're bringing everybody and daring you to beat us, which the one thing Quinn can do, he can do other things, but one thing he can do is get the ball, and if the decision has to be made right away, where Quinn struggles and struggled in that game is when you drop guys and change the look post-snap, he can get confused, and he holds onto the ball, and the play breaks down. He gets sacked. I could have seen him throwing it 6 yards to a guy that gets tackled 5 yards short of the first. Like, don't make him snap, catch, look, and throw an accurate ball down the field to an open receiver. He'll do that all day, every day, and the receivers will make plays all day, every day in that type of cut. I thought that was a disastrous call by Dillingham on a day that he just flat out outcoached Steve Sarkisian. And he, at the very end, he dared a veteran quarterback with great receivers to beat him on 4th and 13.
I know.
It wasn't 4th and 5.
And the safety lets the ball go over his head. There was so much wrong.
Yeah. But you bet. So my point is, ASU can't. You can complain. I would be complaining. But it wasn't guaranteed, and they had another chance to win the game, and they didn't. You credit Ewers and Texas, but the reality is Texas should have lost that game, and they should have lost it because they went most of that game not being able to score again. They scored in 2 plays, and they didn't score again until hell, it might have been the start of the fourth quarter. It was way late third or start of the fourth offensively. I don't understand why we call Sark the greatest offensive mind in history, and they go through these long stretches. I talk to a lot of Texas fans that think Ewers has something to do with it. I don't know.
That discussion around him is going to be real interesting once they're done playing.
Yeah. But because where's he rank NFL wise? What does he want to leave as?
Does Texas want him there?
Does Texas want him there? Can he go get paid? I mean, we know the answer to that. I don't know if it's $6 million. It probably is. Somebody out there.
Somebody that has got a transfer quarterback right now that is going to go back into the transfer portal market is going to be willing to spend it on him.
Somebody would pay him, I think, a minimum of $4 million a year, and probably more like $6 million. So it's like NFL, which I still think ultimately wins out, but it's NFL, go to the right program for a cajillion dollars, or ask Texas to match it. I don't think Texas matches it, and I don't know that they'd want to. If he comes back, you go with him one more year and you go all in, or you lose Arch, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's fascinating. The matchup coming up is fascinating, but that was 1,000% targeting, and some Texas fans own it. But they have gotten every break this year on every level, and if I'm a Texas fan, I'm not apologizing for it, and I'm going to just go into my weekend assuming that that's going to keep going and I'm going to win a national title. Because if I'm them right now, I feel like it's got to be our year. We are the chosen ones by the football gods, because they did get an easy draw on the schedule. They did. They got a nice draw in terms of the playoff. It wasn't easy, though. I'll say this. They didn't get SMU and Boise. They got Cade Klubnik and Clemson, and they got ASU and Scatabo, who, by the way, behind the freshman dynamo at Ohio State, is the best player in this playoff. That dude's incredible.
Yeah,
he is a badass, and what I saw from him yesterday was like legendary stuff, and Levitt looked really good.
I like Levitt's upside, but I was talking to Aaron Torres, and we're up against a break. But what I told Aaron Torres is like, what an incredible year for Dillingham, and it seems like he's got the program going in the right direction. He's an Arizona State guy. Him going to the playoff and having that performance against Texas is going to cost him money, because now everybody is going to start trying to pluck his guys away. And it's a shame that it's like that. And there are going to be kids that help Arizona State go on this run that are going to leave for the dollar signs. When Dillingham's trying to build.
If I'm Mike Elko and A&M, I'm watching that game tape.
Exactly.
I mean, just like every other college coach.
No, it's not. I
might take that big D lineman just for the fake punt purposes. What a call and what a catch by that guy. And he had some speed at 300. I mean, that was ridiculous.
All right, when we come back, we'll close the show on the final segment on Thursday morning.
Let's do a little extra today.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, if you're a regular viewer or listener of the show, you know that when Billy comes in, sometimes we go a little bit long. So if you are wanting to continue to hear what Billy has to say and we go past this break here, keep it locked on YouTube or on TexAgs.com/live. And we will go probably a little bit long. Billy, are you coming in tomorrow? Because that will determine whether we need to talk about a little bit about this basketball game.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. I mean, at least a call in, probably coming in.
Okay.
I'd come in today because wasn't sure if I was going to stay in town Friday or not. Looks like I am. And also didn't know there would be this much to talk about today. But between those games, between Noah Thomas, there was plenty to discuss. So
but do you want to discuss coaching rumors? Because that's all they are right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, kind of refer to what I said last night when I addressed it in the forums. But yeah, I mean, it's when your defense or any side of the ball performs like A&M's did down the stretch, and then it's followed up by the comments Mike Elko made after that game, there is a common sense element. Forget about your emotion of what you saw and what you think should happen. And I know everybody has a lot of strong opinions. I do as well. Everybody's got them. I think take all of that out and just pretend you're a robot or someone from a fan base with no feeling, and you're just watching it. That, let's say you're an Aggie and you're watching this take place at another school that you're like semi-familiar with, and you hear those comments and you combine it with the performance down the stretch, and you go, okay, I can assume where that's going. And there would be odds that would favor you being right. But what I'm going to tell you today is what I said last night. That is not a sure thing. But I do think, I said it a few weeks ago, and I believe it even more so now, like Mike Elko has a really tough decision to make on where he wants to go with the trajectory of his defense, or the future, not the trajectory. He needs to change the trajectory. What he wants to do to change that trajectory is going to be vitally important, to the short term, which, as we know in 2024 college football, the short term is the long-term future of your tenure. Every single move you make is so vitally important, but especially when you're the defensive coach and you came here knowing that you were going to build it around tough, hard-nosed, physical, good tackling, stingy when it came to rushing yards and points defense. And we did not see them play like that enough. Against Texas, they were stingy with points. They weren't stingy with the rushing yards. And they played it to give up some of that, but they did not play as good a defense against the Longhorns as Arizona State did, even though that final score is deceiving. Auburn, they gave up yards, points, 21 points on 3 possessions. USC, we just watched that game. I don't care about the guys you didn't play with. I know that obviously had you had your starters.
Well, USC didn't play with some of their guys.
Them. Yeah. USC didn't have a lot of their starting O-linemen, so what does that look like? And then on the back end of that, you also had a lot of guys playing the other night that are going to be starting on your defense this coming season. So that had to concern Elko in a great way. You look at the South Carolina game, giving up 44 to them, and the tackling or lack thereof in that one. And you even go back to the very first game against Notre Dame, where big gash running plays cost you. And that was, and in a whole season's worth of not really getting to the QB like you thought you would with that defensive front. All in all, it was a disappointing year on offense, and Mike Elko is not the type that's going to sit back and sit pat. I think his decision is, do you go significant change? Do you get more involved yourself? Kind of go against what you thought you kind of had wanted to do as the head coach here? Because I do think that is very much on the table for him to decide to say, hey, I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and that's going to be a lot more of what I do. Do you think that's enough? And these are the decisions he's got to make. And then your other decision is, if you do decide that change is the path you want to go, who's the answer? Because then that hire becomes incredibly important if you choose to go down that road. And the one thing I have heard is I saw the rumors. I saw the guy say, and again, this is agent-driven stuff, guys. In 2024, 90% of what you see from national media when they're mentioning teams that they don't cover, it's agents yapping with a purpose. And it is to manipulate the media and the social media portion of this thing. And it works every single time. If I hear stuff from the agent side, I go try to cross-check it several different ways. And I also don't implicitly distrust agents while implicitly trusting coaches or administrators. The reality is typically somewhere in the middle. In this one, you start reading about Santucci and everyone raises an eyebrow and go, oh, that means Santucci's replacing Bateman. Everybody assumes he'd be here because it's Elko, because he's been at A&M. I really don't see that happening, regardless. So I think there's probably a much better chance, or I think Santucci would end up at Miami or stay at Georgia Tech or something else. I do not see him ending up at A&M, despite what was rumored here recently.
I mean, I agree.
You never say never, but I do not see that one happen.
It's it's still so early in his tenure, but like you said, like these are some defining moments early for what Mike Elko's tenure at College Station is going to be and how long it's going to be.
And he knows that. So he knows he's got to get this right. So I think guys, like, and I see the stuff. I know, I'm going to be honest, if you're listening and you think you know something, I know what's out there. I know what anyone with an account that is, you either are jumping on the bandwagon and hearing something and you don't know, we're off air, you don't know shit, or you kind of do. And I'm going to tell you, you're probably hearing some iteration of the same thing that I hear, but I'm just here to tell you today, even that is wrong. And it is, Mike Elko, of all the things you know about that guy, and you know him as well as anybody, and I know him as well as anybody, he's got to stop short of paralysis by analysis, because he is going to analyze every angle of every, those books you used to read as a kid. I don't know if you had them. You might be too young. People listening, the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
I remember those, yeah.
Well, they came out when we were little. There was no such thing, and then all of a sudden they popped up, and we were all obsessed with them in like elementary school. You pick one way, it says turn to page whatever. You pick another way, That's Mike Elko's mind right now when he's thinking about what does my defense look like in 2025. And yes, beyond, but I think right there at the forefront is like, how do I fix it for this season? Because when he sits in front of a microphone after a game and says basically, I will never have to watch that again, it wasn't to calm people down, because there was no calming people down. That was his inner monologue being heard by the whole world, which is probably what he was thinking in the fourth quarter of that game. Now he has to figure out, and this is what he's doing, is to figure out, how am I going to ensure I'm never going to see that again? And it's not as simple in his mind as it is to everyone on message boards, which is fire the DC and go money whip the best guy in the world. Because
money whip
in 2024, and in his world, he's sitting there going probably, oh yeah, how'd that work out for you guys with John Chavis? Like, you look at a guy like who he did make a run at last year, Fuller at Florida State, right? He made a run at him behind the scenes. It was over before it started because Florida State paid Fuller, $3 whatever million a year. They gave him a massive raise. They gave him a massive raise coming off a season that they were one of the best defenses you're going to ever see. I mean, they just destroyed offenses. A year later, he's fired. So it's like, why? Like, what's the deal here with him? Because he was so good that just interest by A&M got him paid an obscene amount of money, and then a year later he was fired. My point is there's no easy answer. And that guy might end up being one of the best in college football. Or A&M can go find the next John Chavis, and it can be a complete and total disaster. Or they could find the next Mike Elko, and Dave Aranda stays in Baton Rouge, and you ended up a big winner.
He's got to make a decision on how involved he wants to get in this thing on the defensive side, right? You see Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood is the offensive coordinator at Texas. He doesn't call one play.
Yeah.
So how involved does Mike Elko want to be on that front? And he may want to be real involved. He may not want to be real involved. But that's a decision, an early decision in his tenure that's going to be.
He might
important.
want to go. He might, I think he did this with Bateman, where there was so much familiarity that there was almost like a trust there that he could do it. He might. I don't think this is what would happen. This is lower on my list of possibilities. But I know it's something that he thought about prior, and I don't think. Look, there's an NFL component. If you look at the style of defense Mike Elko likes, it is a. I think it's more of an NFL. It's an NFL style defense. So that I don't think that would be out of the question if he made a move. I also don't think that. This is lower down on my thing, Brawny, but there's also the component of a young up and coming guy where the head coach does get more involved, and it's more of a condescending way of saying it, but you know what I mean. I don't mean it that way, like hold his hand as he develops type thing. I think that's lower on my list, but what we're talking about here are all the options, and one of them is keeping Bateman and rolling up your sleeves and saying, I'm going to do the majority of this now because what happened. So I don't know where it'll go. My point.
If he does that, it speaks to the trust level he's got on the other side of the ball that he doesn't even need to put his nose in it.
Yeah. My post last night had to do with this. It had to do with this whole, why aren't you addressing the rumors? It's out there. Like, sometimes, guys, it is absolutely best for me not to address them when they're not there. And then when I get the full scope of information and I am armed with actual facts and not what 1, 2, 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, what is the next one? 192.
384, 768, 1536.
Keep going, Rain Man.
31.
Come on, Raymond.
3112.
Okay.
Is that right? Am I doing that right?
I don't know.
Nick, are you checking me? He's not even listening. I don't have my ears on.
Either way, I'm proud of you on that. But look, like, just because that started with a couple and grew to that, that is not what makes me choose to go on there and post about it. What makes me do it is when I get information where I feel like I'm giving you guys enough to say, here's where it's at. This is the reality. And that's what I wrote last night. That's where it's at. That's the reality. If something ends up happening in terms of movement at DC, it doesn't mean that something happened a week ago. Doesn't mean that something happened the night after the game. It doesn't mean like these things have to, like, let's just say things have to get approved, wheels have to go in motion, and then the wheels never have to stay in motion either. Elko's still figuring out what he's going to do with his defense, and he will decide that. And when he does, and when anything real happens, we will report on it. But for now, that's my update. Your head coach is figuring out how he has to fix the defense, and as you could tell the other day, he has said he is hell-bent on fixing said defense. But this dude is not going to rush into a decision.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.